Well, good evening. This is Hound Dog Steve coming to you on Monday, the 4th of September. And this is the final WebBot report from Clif High. He said he's going to keep on with the Cryptocurrencies report, but as far as WebBot reporting is concerned, certainly in the near term, this is it. And I want to thank Clif wholeheartedly for his efforts, especially right now as he's moving home. He's had a few health issues, renovating his camper. Busy man, and yet he still found the time to share with us the WebBot report. This is the first one since I believe July, and it's still only $15, amazing value for the information. So this is a summary, because I don't want to give all of the secrets away. So just go to Half Past Human. I will leave the link down below, and you can go and purchase your own WebBot report. And I would do that just for nostalgia, just to be able to look back and see what a brilliant man Clif High is. And he's also finds the most incredible cover pictures in Trepido. There we go, flying off a cliff and catching somebody with the jetpack. Oh my God. Okay, so Planetary Changes. There are rising emotions connected to Antarctica, so there will be lots of activity coming up in Antarctica, and also the root of the problem. Okay, there was data sets that indicated there would be long cracks going across the earth, through villages, towns, cities. Now, you know, earthquakes and volcanoes are connected to an increase in cosmic rays, and we are going into a grand solar minimum, so you would expect increased volcanic and earthquake activity on the planet. So I think that is a distinct WebBot hit already, because we are seeing increased volcanic activity and we are seeing increased earthquakes at the present moment. And also there has been some islands that have risen out of the sea off the coast of India. That happened earlier this year. And of course there was a breaking off of a big chunk of ice, which was as big as an island off Antarctica. There was some increased volcanic activity from underneath, and you know, if you see the photographs of Antarctica, you can see the surface. There is no melting whatsoever where that ice came off, so it's all happening from underneath. But you know, interesting enough, now this is another WebBot hit. He talks about a root rot that would be affecting plants and agriculture worldwide. Okay, well, we have that in Canada already, and it is worldwide. It's called Fusarium wilt, and basically our main banana variety has been threatened by Fusarium wilt because it is traveling faster than they can come up with a hybridized banana that is not affected by Fusarium wilt. Also, the coffee industry is just being devastated by this same fungus. And kind of interesting enough, the Americans are using Fusarium to spray marijuana plantations. And of course this is all very well, however, you know, funguses tend to spread through spores on the wind. So this has surely worsened the problem. But out of this, there will become a new wave of agriculture, and I'm thinking that this could well be biodynamic, because bacterias will keep funguses in check, and biodynamic basically means having a biologically balanced soil to grow your food in. Now, there was some talk about geoengineering in the WebBot report, and there are going to be geoengineering prizes to try and legitimize the whole idea of geoengineering in the eyes of the public. because it's becoming so obvious now when you see these long white fluffy trails going through the sky, and they're crisscrossing, and they're so obviously not contrails, so they had to do something. So this is what they're going to do. They're going to whitewash it by offering the Nobel Peace Prize for engineering, geoengineering, and try and get away with that. Okay, from space, there was going to be plasma and plasma generators, and of course, you know, Tesla in 1895 proved that you could fire a radio wave into the ionosphere, allow it to travel around the planet, and pick that up on another antenna, and it would charge itself, or it would act as a generator to charge that radio wave up. And he broadcasts those radio waves via scalar waves. Okay, and so we already know that we can broadcast, and we've known since 1895 that we can broadcast electricity through the air, through scalar waves, and we wouldn't even need to have wires, connectors, plugs, anything like that. The webbot also mentions these lightning whips, and I've actually seen a couple of photographs of these on Adapt 2030's channel. I will leave a link for that below. And these are basically dark energy made visible because of the ground solar minimum and the lessening of solar radiation and gamma radiation output. And so for some reason, I'm not quite sure why, I'm not a physicist, but they allow this dark energy to be visible. And it also describes a suspension bridge that is actually glowing and videotaped as being alive with plasma. The planet will also be experiencing what the webbot calls binary weather, either too hot, too cold, too wet, too dry. We're already getting that. Last year in Ontario we had a year so dry it was unbelievable. We were barely getting one rainfall a month, and now we have had nothing but rain this year, and it's been a cool, damp year, whereas BC has been getting all of our hot, dry weather, and they have endless forest fires. Okay, so the global population. What is going to happen in the global population is that the internet will reveal a flood of information about scandals and excesses of deception and wrongdoing at the highest levels. And there is going to be a public reaction and rejection of all of this kind of behavior from the people who govern us. There will also be a flooding of water and inundations through 2017 and 2018, horrific flooding, hillside sliding. You know how we've seen these before, usually in South America actually, where they do get heavy rainfalls in those rainforests. And you know, someone's built a garbage site on the edge of town, and it's on the side of a hill, and they get a series of heavy rains, and whoosh, the whole thing slides down into the town below. Along with the flood of new information, there is a flood of information about technology, and there is a connection between sparks and electricity, and so this is cross-linked to electrical activity, electrical technology. Again, is this Tesla technology going to come to the fore, or is this just suppressed technology coming to the fore? Because you know, all the things that we have today, all the manufacturing models we have today are based on the idea of building a plant to manufacture and then pricing the manufactured item to cover the cost of building the plant and how long it will last for its lifetime of the generation or manufacturing of parts. This is when new technology tends to arise. There's also a flood of information in the political fields, and there'll be fast changes and in the political and financial fields. And we can see that happening too right now as Well, look at the mess going on in the States right now and the upset that Donald Trump has caused in the scheme of things. There will be several high-profile figures captured in a series of targeted arrests for corruption or collusion, and it will be first reported on the internet. And mainstream media will be ignoring these stories, these arrests, for the first month or so, until basically they're forced to pay attention and to report what is going in. September. Oh, September. This is going to be a month of consequences and some possible large-scale evacuations from nature, problems caused by nature, and some of the problems caused by man-made structures. And of course we're seeing, as we speak right now, the evacuation going on in Texas from the Hurricane Harvey, and also Louisiana is having some evacuations, and as well as we have another hurricane coming in which is bigger than Harvey, called Irma, and we're not quite sure when that is going to strike the east coast of America, but it will be in the next week or so. So people are being moved around, and of course when you have these heavy rainfalls, you know, Harvey dumped 3 feet or a meter of water on a good portion of Texas, and so all of the dams are now bursting at the seams, and of course these dams haven't been tested like this for many a year, so you could see some dam failures as well, creating evacuations. Now, out of all of these issues that are happening, you're going to start to see some new political parties emerge out of the vacuums created by the failure of local government. And I was hearing about a group in San Bernardino, I think it is, who is basically set to replace the local government should there be a local emergency where power was lost. There were evacuations, there were situations that included looting, that kind of stuff, and so we're already seeing that happening right now. There is going to be a move back to a more centrist kind of view from the populations, the Western populations certainly, and we're going to realize that the two polarizations are actually a very small number of people, and the vast majority of us are centrist, well-meaning, easy to get along with people who want to see progress and growth. So out of all of this there will be an entrepreneurial bloom, and there will be signs of hope or positive movement forward, optimism. And I can see that because, you know, I think we're all waiting for this great leap forward. We're all waiting for new growth to start, and we have an awful lot of baggage from the past along with us, and so yes, it will be, I think, quite positive to see some of these changes forced upon us by a neutral agency, which would be, you know, nature. Now, some of the entrepreneurial hotspots that Clif High mentions are the Philippines, Ireland, the islands off Thailand and India, and Australia and Korea. And who knows, maybe we're seeing a merging of North and South Korea, and some of those engineering knowledges that both sides have merging together and forming new technologies. Okay, so let's move on to the population wars. Okay, so the public is going to move away, and this is again back to the centrist views, but the public is going to move away from the volatile rhetoric of the few and take back control of the language. So I mentioned before about a thing that was written on the washroom walls when I was a student, and it said that fighting for peace is like fornicating for virginity. Okay, so if you think about that for a second, the absolute no sense it makes to say that we're fighting for peace. Okay, whenever you hear a story that has that ring to it, or anything that we're going to have a war on drugs, war on poverty, all of these things have not worked. They've just been a huge expense-laden boondoggle. Antarctica is going to be in the news, strangely enough, for rich soils, warm rivers, and steaming chambers. And I mean, I wonder if this is the part of the volcanic activity under the South Pole, which is seemingly ongoing. And I would personally recommend you all research Admiral Byrd and his exploration of the South Pole after the Second World War, because it was rumoured that the Germans had a base in Antarctica. Okay, so we'll move straight on to the Australia pop, and it seems that the politicians there are going to be caught up in some kind of money, currency manipulation, and manipulating their own currency. There is also going to be a discovery of a pyramid connected with UFO activity and some kind of electrical emanations coming out of that pyramid. Okay, and on to my own country, the Canada pop. Okay, there's a lot of emotional sets around foreclosure for the next decade, and I think we've known for quite a while that in Canada we are basically in a housing bubble. We're in a horrible situation. There's so many people saddled with housing debt and private debt that we really are, well, that bubble, well, we already think actually that bubble has burst. There was home equity mortgage company was basically teetering on the edge of bankruptcy, and it turns out that this company basically was, it was like these ninja loans, no jobs, no income, no problem. So they were basically issuing mortgages to people who weren't qualified for them. There's a lot of sets around electrical issues, around substations, catching fire, lightning, national lightning, lighting going out, this kind of stuff. I don't know whether this is going to be caused by these Birkeland waves hitting our substations and so on and so forth, causing electrical disruption. Now, one of the things that I've wondered, now, you know, we have all these cell phone towers all over the place, and these cell phone towers are emitting an electrical frequency that allows the telephone calls to pass through that frequency. And I wondered whether this would affect lightning, yeah, because lightning is another electrical frequency, and could it somehow assist the transmission of that electricity, disperse it in some kind of weird ball lightning, this kind of stuff, because, you know, we really don't know a lot about the 5G system, even the 4G system, and how it all interacts, even down to the 60 hertz that we have in our electrical hydro cables running along the side of the road. These are all frequencies, and they're all interacting with each other, creating harmonies and distortions in that electrical field as you get closer to the towers, as you get further away from the towers, all of this kind of stuff, and we really don't fully understand how that works. There is also a lot of things in the webbot about forest fires in Canada, and forest fires in places where you wouldn't expect them, where there is wetness, wet ground and that kind of stuff, and we're seeing that this year. The whole of Western Canada has been ablaze, from Alberta, Saskatchewan, BC especially. They're getting Ontario's summer from last year, hot and dry. And at one point I think there was over 250 fires blazing at the same time in this wood-rich province. Okay, so now we're going to move right on to the Central European population. And the webbot talks about new discoveries from holes in the ground and an excavation uncovers an ancient ruin, and that will be videoed and filmed, and there will be a great release of secrets from these underground caves that are going to be discovered. Now, it's the signs of an economic disruption, but it causes positive emotional values in the data sets. And I'm wondering if that is the death of the euro and the euro project, and all of these countries returning back to their own currencies, which I think is what most people in their heart of hearts want to do. I think most people that I've spoken to from Europe do not really like the euro and would like to see the Deutschmark, the franc, the scudo, their own currencies, the drachma, return to their currencies. It was basically a national pride issue. So anyway, we'll see what that is. All through Europe is rough weather in the coming 2 years. Part of the grand solar minimum, the coming ice age, little ice age, but there will be extremes. There will be a harsh winter this year, and the extremes will be coming from strange places. They'll be coming from directions that you wouldn't have thought, and occurring in areas that you wouldn't have thought. So rivers will be drying up, and areas that are traditionally dry will be flooding. Now, actually, from my mechanical background, I always see that when systems are coming to an end, they tend to polarize, they start to swing. Instead of keeping that nice central position like this, you ever watch a coin when you spin it on a table and it goes around like this, and then all of a sudden, as it starts to lose energy, it starts to do one of these things, and then eventually it ends up being flat and spinning around on the table. And I think all systems do this. I think this is why the weather systems that we're having is coming to an end, because we're polarizing in weather. Let's say whether too hot, too cold, too wet, too dry. The problems that we're having in society, we're kind of swinging from one side to the other, one extreme to the other. There is no middle ground anymore. You're either for or against. So you're being polarized. You either love Trump or you hate him. You either love Clinton or you hate her. There is no in between anymore. Okay, the Deutsche Pop, or Germany. Germany is not known for earthquakes, but it is indicating that Germany is going to have an earthquake. The people are going to experience an earthquake. And there is a connection between this earthquake and CERN and the Large Hadron Collider. Not quite sure what that connection is, but there's been much speculation about CERN creating a small black hole. Have to watch out for that one. There are indications that there will be a reaction to a buildup of gases, natural gases, possibly an explosion, and there is also the public anger rising, pressure rising within the public over the expanding population, the suddenly expanding population, and the governor's ineptitude at handling, dealing with this, and even inviting the problem in the first place. Italy pop is the same as Germany. Seismic activity, bad and extreme weather, unexpected weather events which will cause food riots, and a crashing of the Vatican. Now, the Webbot report has mentioned this actually quite a lot in the past, and that is the over food. You know, the Vatican has these huge gardens, and the population break down the doors of the Vatican to get the food. And whilst they're in there, they raid the catacombs, the libraries, the collections, and they find all kinds of interesting secrets, long buried. So new information, new energies coming out of that. Okay, so USA population. Get ready for the sci-fi world over the next few years. Strangely enough, out of the doldrums that America finds itself in, there is going to be an innovation, a renaissance of American ingenuity in all fields of science. It'll be interesting to see how this comes about. And along with this flooding of information and this new technology coming on the scene, there's going to be a lot of regular flooding with water, and we're seeing that with Harvey, and of course there is Irma now out in the Atlantic Ocean, and we were going to see what happens when Irma comes ashore. People become aware of the new economy. And I think, again, this is caused by the disruptions of storms, man-made collapses, this kind of stuff, are going to force people to come up with ingenious ways of thinking about money, economy, and how it's going to work. And, of course, trading and bartering over the internet. So I'm sure you're going to see a lot more new and innovative technology and sites coming up along that area. Conflict internally from polarized groups, but thankfully again, you know, this highlights how ridiculous these people are, and a more of a centering of the political views in the USA. And of course the good news from all of this is that the USA finally gains a broader world perspective and the effect and the role that it plays in the broader world. And there are also data sets indicating that USA will enter into negotiations with North Korea. And of course we are on a precipice with North Korea at the present moment. There are indications that ghost issues will be rising up from the past, like JFK and other unsolved mysteries which frighten the political elites. They're frightened because the real history will emerge to the horror of the powers that be. And out of this will become a rebuilding of the social order socially around healing and the challenges of that. And so it looks like we're going to move back into a more humanistic way of looking at things, realizing what is important in life. And of course health is paramount, because if you don't have your health, you don't have anything. So it'll certainly be good to see that happening. Because of all that has gone on, politicians will be discredited, and this will cause public anger, which in turn will lead to many resignations of the current political faces that you're seeing up there today. There's also going to be a lot of deep investigations, real investigations and committees into what actually happened at these events that have been basically called conspiracy theories up until now. Okay, so we're going to move on now into filthy lucre, hard currency, the markets, and crypto systems break out. They're breaking free of a debt-based system. That's what we're doing right now, is we're going to leave debt-based systems behind, and we're going to realize the value of cryptocurrencies. We're still very much at the beginning, the inception of these currencies, and there will be some refinement. But Bitcoin, I said all along that Bitcoin will become the world reserve currency as a trade-in, trade-out kind of currency, but it will be the value holder, the placeholder that everyone uses as the honest standard and arbiter of the value of money around the world, based on true commodities, on what you can produce within that economic loop that you live within. Okay, there is going to be a capital flow disruption, a deep freeze. There is going to be a cessation of lending between institutions, and this is going to lead to a complete disruption of the financial network. It's going to be a repeat of 2007 when the asset-backed commercial paper failed, but this is going to be a lot more entrenched than that, because people are not going to the banks. These institutions are realizing that all of the assets are now liabilities, and nobody wants to accept these as collateral. This is going to lead to some really big issues in the money system. Okay, also new energies coming online are going to disrupt traditional energy industries, and there is going to be a lot of trouble over that. These traditional energy industries have held sway for an awful long time, and now their rule is coming to an end. In the immediacy data, there is problems with the mining industry, the gold and silver mining industry especially. The cost of production is now far in excess of what you can recover by the sale of real silver, because as I said in my other video, it's being artificially suppressed by the paper markets, and so this is really going to upset the mining industry in the short term. But there is a resurgence of mining, a big resurgence, as we realize that we need these precious metals to run all of the technology. We need rare earth metals to run all of the technologies that we have today, and so there will be a resurgence of gold and silver, and an increase in the value of gold and silver. There's also indications that there will be a gradual shift into cryptocurrencies away from gold and silver, which will lead to a kind of blending of the two, and this is a good thing. This will really stabilize the foundation of the economy, because money is the root of every economy. Money runs through every economy like blood runs through your veins. It is so essential, and it's so essential that it is uncorrupted if we are going to have a meaningful and a vibrant economy worldwide. And of course, this is multiple years of chaos for money and financial systems as it deals with a new wave of innovations in the crypto world, allowing states and countries to disconnect from debt-based currencies. So I would say that this is a kind of an interesting last WebBot report, and I'm glad to have brought it to you, and I'm glad to have been associated with Clif, even though it was vicariously through the internet. I still listen to all of his videos because he is such an intelligent man. I will be, I think, downloading his Cryptocurrencies and doing reports on that in the future. And but other than that, that is sadly the last WebBot report. So if you have enjoyed this, please like and subscribe below and leave a comment. I'd love to hear what you say. I know there are lots of mixed feelings out there about Clif High and his predictions. Personally, I found maybe the time is off, but the topics that he talks about are very timely. And the more you see them recurring in the data sets, the more likely that they are to happen, just not on the time scale. And of course, timing is always very difficult. If you listen to any of the money videos, how many times have we been gonna collapse, and we haven't collapsed yet? Okay, so timing, you might know something is going to happen, but when it's going to happen, that's the key. Anyway, all of you have a great week and a great evening, and we'll talk to you soon. This is Hound Dog Steve, signing off.